To create one of the most powerful armies of its time, it was necessary to have individuals who could withstand rigorous rules, undergo prolonged training that tested the limits of patience, and possess physically flawless attributes to endure harsh conditions. By the 6th century BCE, the city-state of Sparta, located in the Laconia region of southern Greece, had established powerful laws incorporating all these qualities into its members. Over the next century, these laws would transform them into one of the most formidable war machines of the ancient world. Sparta had a unique military system, leaving no room for weakness. Emphasis on physical perfection for military success began from birth. When a male child was born, a ritual involved washing the entire body with wine by the mother. This was believed to strengthen the newborn physically. After this, a thorough examination was conducted to determine if the child was healthy enough to be allowed to live. The Gerousia Council, composed of elders of this is Sparta, scrutinized in detail whether the child had any physical issues. Those who passed the test were entrusted to their families for upbringing. Those deemed too weak and unhealthy were thrown from a cliff near Mount Tegedos.
However, the reality of this practice is highly debated today. Archaeologists conducting excavations at the base of Tegedos found only adult bones, challenging the notion that Spartan families threw children with physical inadequacies off the cliff. According to some interpretations, a small portion of these children, not torn apart by wild animals or dying in a shameful manner, might have been adopted by other Spartan families.
Except for the firstborn sons outside the royal houses of Aegaeid and Euryponid. Every Spartan male child, upon reaching the age of 7, was taken from his family and placed in schools called Aegaeid. Here, they underwent a training program known as the Agoge, characterized by a curriculum based more on violence than persuasion. The discipline was strict, with rigid medical rules designed to teach physical endurance and resilience to hardships. Children were inadequately fed by their instructors, and stealing food to fend for themselves was encouraged. However, they had to be extremely careful in doing so, because no mistakes were left unpunished in the Agoge. Those caught stealing during the process were mercilessly whipped, and their daily rations were further reduced. This method aimed to increase Spartan children's resistance to hunger. Additionally, it taught them to keep their eyes open and stay alert to avoid punishment. The Agoge was not an open educational program for everyone. Helots, enslaved and criticized after being captured in wars, and free Perioiko, non-Spartan citizens, could not participate. The only exception was Xenophon, an Athenian writer and philosopher, who was the son of Spartan king 2nd Agesilaus and admired Spartan military training. Apart from him, the Agoge was exclusively for free Spartan citizens. The first stage of the 3-part education program, called Halides, covered ages 7 to 17. Children learned to live in groups and pledge allegiance to the state rather than their families. Physical development was prioritized in the Spartan education system, but children were also expected to acquire certain skills in reading, writing, music, and dance. Older and stronger ones were instructed to gather wood daily, while the weaker ones were tasked with collecting lighter items such as fruit, plants, herbs, and straw. Diaboige, an intense struggle for survival in natural conditions, had to be consistent with such a lifestyle. During this training, children were deprived of food and water for days, forced to bathe in the icy waters of the Eurotas River, and their endurance to pain was increased through laughter. After dinner, master instructors would tell the youth heroic stories, read poems about war and history, and challenge them to explain, increasing their mental faculties to strengthen logical powers. Answers were expected to be as concise and clear as possible, as action was considered more valuable than speech for Spartans. Upon reaching the age of 18 and becoming adults, they moved on to the second stage of education called paidiskos, enlisting in the Spartan army. Those showing leadership potential were selected for a secret police organization whose main purpose was to observe every move and ruthlessly kill if necessary. This way, helots, feared to rebel at any moment, were kept under control. Those aged 20 underwent a 10-year phase of both physical and mental tests, joining 15-member units to become full-time Spartan soldiers. This turned them into one of the most formidable war machines of the ancient world. During this period, they continued living in barracks and tried to gain a significant position among Spartan cavalry units. However, to obtain full citizenship rights, they had to complete the hoplinomos test stage, participate in elections, and get married. This entire system was organized by the semi-legendary Spartan king Lycurgus. Nevertheless, most historians believed that the system developed around the 7th century BCE. Regardless, Spartan military virtues were highly valued. The League must have realized this, as Spartans were prohibited from engaging in prolonged wars against their enemies. This made it difficult for rival states to decipher the tactics employed by Spartan soldiers. During times of war, the kings performed Zeus dedications, attempting to learn whether the upcoming campaign was approved. In case the signs were positive, the sacred fire, supported by sumac, was taken by an official called a policeman and transported to the battlefield with the army. This ensured divine support from the gods. The meat of sacrifice goats and sheep to Zeus was later distributed to the soldiers. While marching, families of Perioiko living in the northern mountains of Sparta and Spartan cavalrymen marched at the forefront of the army. These groups served as both intimidating forces with their light weapons and a fast reconnaissance unit. Following them, citizens formed to long rows surrounding pack mules, each carrying a provision bag containing rye bread, cheese, and salted meat sufficient for 20 days per soldier. However, every Spartan had the duty to carry his own weapon. The only thing protecting them from the cold at night was the red cloak called own twin, received from the state annually starting at the age of 12. They spent the nights outdoors or in natural shelters. They had neither tents nor beds. Throughout the hunt, they prepared for these harsh conditions by sleeping on the hard ground near the banks of the Eurotas River. In these hardships, when reaching the border of a foreign state, sacrifices were offered again to Zeus and Athena. Upon reaching the battlefield, a camp was usually set up near water sources. The camp itself was arranged in a square with animals, various materials, and choirs placed in the center. Elite families and cavalrymen patrolled from higher ground. The goal was to observe potential enemies nearby and prevent anyone from escaping the camp. Spartans had to adhere to a strict schedule during the entire march. Physical exercise before breakfast, rigorous inspections by officers, and long hours of watch were all part of the program. In the afternoon, soldiers organized various athletic competitions under the supervision of a high-ranking officer called telemarch. As Cloud expressed in his Argo, Spartans saw war as a kind of holiday. When the day of battle arrived, hoplites would pounce on the enemy's field of view at dawn. They carefully prepared their shields and weapons, arranging their long hair. When the war trumpet sounded, each Spartan would recite a dirge written for a hero. After a while, the song would be accompanied by a flute. The Spartan phalanx, usually consisting of 8 men standing side by side, would slowly take shape. As enemies approached, they would face an impenetrable wall of shields filled with spears. The Spartan army approached enemy forces slowly but steadily. The flute accompanying the song determined the pace of their progress. Spartans often used the phalanx tactic, where 8 men stood side by side with their round shields, creating a wall-like formation filled with spears. Although this tactic was used by many armies in the Greek world, the Spartan phalanx gained a reputation for its unyielding nature and unity. However, during the Peloponnesian War, both Spartans and Athenians employed peltas, light infantry, at times. Nevertheless, the phalanx remained the primary battle tactic. The goal of the battle was to completely break the enemy line. However, at times, it was challenging to determine who was winning. During such moments, soldiers tended to abandon their shields to escape. Therefore, according to Spartan laws, arpezes, meaning leaving the shield in the battlefield, desertion, and fleeing, was considered a serious crime. Pursuing a fleeing enemy soldier was also prohibited by Spartan laws after victory. This prevented Spartan units from being unnecessarily endangered. After the war, their sole duty was to collect the bodies of fallen comrades on the battlefield. Armor and helmet removed from the bodies of fallen soldiers were placed on a wooden trunk to be left as a memorial for the day's events to be remembered. However, the nature of these memorials varied depending on the significance of the battle. For instance, a lion statue was erected at Thermopylae in memory of King Leonidas, who died in the battle against the Persians. The Spartan military system was built on the foundation of perfect physical endurance. Each Spartan soldier functioned as an integral part of an immensely powerful whole. They had undergone a program to create the most enduring individuals of the ancient world. However, their superiority did not last long. The defeat against Thebes in 371 BCE marked the beginning of a prolonged decline for the Spartans. When the ancient era closed, the name of the Spartans was only remembered within the context of their developed military training system. Little remained of them.